My name is Harper Bennett. 8 years ago, I walked away from a promising finance career to save my parents' struggling gourmet shop. Everyone thought I was crazy to leave my six-figure salary for a business that was 3 months from bankruptcy. But I saw potential where others saw only risk. The champagne flutes clinked around the private dining room at Ellsworth, Boston's most exclusive restaurant. I smiled as Jonathan Pierce, lead investor at Meridian Capital, raised his glass with genuine enthusiasm. After months of negotiations, I'd finally secured an $8 million investment to take my family's specialty food business, Bennett Fine Foods, national. The investors beamed. My parents, Victor and Margaret Bennett, looked happier than I'd seen them in years. It felt surreal. Months of relentless work, sleepless nights, and sacrifices were finally paying off. I remember when your parents' shop was just a little storefront in Cambridge, said Dr. Evelyn Carter, my former business school professor and mentor, who had introduced me to the investors. And now look at this: national distribution, online subscriptions, and multiple manufacturing partnerships. Truly remarkable, Harper. I felt a swell of pride as the investors nodded appreciatively. The journey hadn't been easy. I'd restructured operations, rebranded the product line, secured key partnerships, and built an e-commerce platform from scratch. Bennett Fine Foods had grown from a local favorite to a national brand, with our specialty jams and artisanal condiments now shipping to 48 states. None of this would have happened without Harper's vision, my father said, raising his glass. When Margaret and I started this business 25 years ago, we never imagined it could become what it is today, he continued. But I noticed a flicker of hesitation cross my mother's face. I knew that look too well. As the investors discussed expansion plans, I felt my mother's hand slip into mine under the table. Harper dear, she whispered, leaning close, this is all very exciting, but remember when Lucas returns from his MBA program next month, he'll make a better CEO for the family business. You've done wonderful groundwork, but he has the right education for this scale. Lucas, my brother, the golden child, had spent the past year traveling through Europe after his MBA, barely checking in on the business I had been rebuilding with my blood, sweat, and tears. I smiled politely and squeezed my mother's hand back, but ice was forming in my stomach. 8 years of 18-hour days, skipped vacations, and postponed personal life, and she still saw me as a temporary caretaker of Lucas' birthright. Everything okay? Jonathan Pierce asked, noticing our exchange. Absolutely perfect, I replied, raising my glass higher. But behind a smile, my mind was racing. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. I already knew the battle for the company's future had just begun. 8 years ago, I had been a rising star at a top finance firm when my father called with news that changed everything: the family business was failing. They had overextended with a second location, and the recession had hit luxury food items hard. The shop was 3 months from permanent closure. I still remember my colleagues' reactions when I resigned. You're leaving finance to sell fancy jam, my boss asked incredulously. Even Lucas, finishing his undergraduate degree, questioned my decision. It's a sinking ship, Harper. Let it go and find something else to do, he said. But I couldn't. Bennett Fine Foods wasn't just a shop, it was my parents' legacy. I grew up watching them craft recipes, source ingredients from small family farms, and build personal relationships with every customer. Walking away wasn't just about saving a business, it was about preserving a family dream. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked the front counter during the day and pored over spreadsheets at night. I sold the second location, renegotiated supplier contracts, and modernized accounting systems. I took out a second mortgage on my condo to fund our first e-commerce platform, then slept on a cot in the stockroom for 6 months when I couldn't make both the mortgage and rent payments. Meanwhile, Lucas had taken an entry-level consulting job, offering occasional advice but too busy building his own career to help. My parents seemed unconcerned about his absence, always quick to point out how he was gaining experience that would someday benefit Bennett Fine Foods. But I was transforming the business. Our handcrafted preserves caught the attention of a food blogger, whose viral post led to a subscription service with 20,000 monthly subscribers. Last year, I secured partnerships with 3 national gourmet grocery chains, increasing revenue by 340%. Yet, despite my efforts, my parents' praise always carried an unspoken assumption: Lucas would eventually take over. The next morning, I arrived at Bennett Fine Foods before dawn. The office was quiet, the stockroom empty, and the air filled with the faint aroma of roasted nuts and spices from the previous day's production. I like these early hours: no interruptions, no polite smiles masking hidden agendas. Just me and the work that mattered. I settled at my desk, spreading out months of reports, financial projections, and market analyses. Every number told a story: revenue growth, customer engagement, subscription retention rates. I had built this, every ounce of it, from the ground up. But tonight's dinner had reminded me that recognition from my family was never guaranteed. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Miss Bennett, everything okay?" Carlos, our head of maintenance, asked as he peeked inside. He had been with the business since I took over and knew me well enough not to pry. "Just preparing for a big meeting," I replied without looking up. Carlos shook his head, a wry smile on his face. "Another one after that fancy dinner last night. You worked too hard, you know." I smiled despite myself. "I appreciate the concern, Carlos, but this one's important. Maybe the most important meeting I've ever had." After he left, I made a call I had been delaying for months, mostly out of loyalty to my parents, but also fear of confrontation. "Harper, it's 6:30 on a Saturday," Dr. Evelyn Carter groggily answered. "You're calling early." "I need your advice, and possibly your help," I said without preamble. 45 minutes later, Evelyn walked through the door with 2 coffees and a determined expression. She had been my mentor since business school and always knew how to cut through the emotional fog. After I explained the situation, she studied me carefully. "You've been anticipating this moment for years," she observed. "Harper, what do you really want?" I hesitated. "Recognition from my parents. The CEO position I already held in practice. Or something deeper, proof that my efforts mattered independently of my family's approval." "I want what I've earned," I said finally. "I want to stop pretending that my family values my contribution." Evelyn nodded. "Then let's make some calls." By noon, I had contacted Jonathan Pierce and scheduled an emergency meeting with his team for Sunday morning. I also reached out to my core team: Nina from marketing, Owen from operations, and Leah from product development, asking them to come in for an urgent strategy session. These were the people who had built the company alongside me while Lucas was off exploring Europe. Calls from my parents came and went unanswered. They were eager to share Lucas' ideas for the business, but this weekend wasn't about him. It was about securing my future, with or without Bennett Fine Foods. Sunday arrived with a knot in my stomach. I had barely slept, running projections until 3 a.m. Jonathan Pierce and his team arrived at 9 a.m., expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. I slid folders across the conference table. Page 1. The current organizational chart of Bennett Fine Foods. Page 2. The family's likely vision after the investment, with Lucas as CEO and me relegated to a symbolic role. Page 3. My counterproposal, A new company structure where I would remain in control, independent of the family name. The room fell silent as the investors absorbed the audacity of the plan. "You're proposing we redirect the investment to a new entity led by you?" Jonathan asked. "Yes," I said steadily. "Let me show you why it makes financial sense." I clicked through the presentation I had prepared overnight. "The market validation already existed," I explained. "Our customers connected with the product and brand story, both created under my leadership, not the family name. I outlined sustained revenue growth, manufacturing partnerships with upcoming renewal clauses, and a solid pipeline for expansion." "This is impressive work for one weekend," Jonathan said finally, leaning back. "I'm guessing you've been thinking about this much longer." I nodded. "About 3 years. Watching how my parents favored Lucas over me, I knew this day might come." 2 hours of discussion later, they agreed in principle. My contingency plan wasn't just viable, it was strong. Relief washed over me, but Jonathan had one condition: I needed to have an honest conversation with my parents before finalizing anything. They deserved to recognize what they were about to lose. I didn't sleep much that Sunday night either. By morning, I was ready. My core team was already at the office. Their quiet support reminded me that my real family wasn't defined by blood, it was the people who stood behind me when the chips were down. Monday would be the day everything changed. Monday morning arrived crisp and bright. I got to Bennett Fine Foods at 7:30 a.m., giving myself time to center my thoughts and review every note one last time. The office buzzed quietly with anticipation. My core team, Nina, Owen, and Leah, were already at their stations, faces calm but eyes filled with determination. Over the past 8 years, they had become more than colleagues, they were the backbone of everything I had built. At 8:30, my parents arrived, perfectly on schedule. My mother, Eleanor Bennett, was dressed formally, her expression carefully neutral, as though preparing for a presentation. My father, Richard Bennett, appeared weary, carrying the subtle tension of last night's confrontation. "Good morning," my mother said, her voice clipped but polite. "We thought we'd stop by early to review some plans with Lucas before his first day." Lucas Bennett, the golden child, strolled in at 8:45, exuding casual confidence, like he owned the place already. Expensive suit, perfectly combed hair, a smile that had been carefully practiced over years of family privilege. He shook hands with employees he barely knew, offering broad declarations about the future of the company. I watched from my glass-walled office, noting the stark contrast between his confidence and the countless hours I had poured into earning real respect here. At precisely 9 a.m., Jonathan Pierce arrived with his team from Meridian Capital, including 2 partners from their legal department. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Employees could sense something significant was about to happen. "Mr. Pierce, welcome," my mother began, extending her hand with practiced grace. "I'd like to introduce you to my son, Lucas." "He's just returned from Europe and," Jonathan interrupted, polite but firm. "Actually, Mrs. Bennett, we're here to speak with Harper. I think it's important for all of you to join us in the conference room, but this conversation concerns her leadership and vision." The moment of reckoning had arrived. Years of unspoken family dynamics collided with cold business reality. The conference room felt tense as everyone took their seats, my parents and Lucas on one side, Jonathan and his team on the other, and me at the head of the table. Jonathan opened his briefcase and laid out several documents. "Before we begin," he said, "Meridian Capital's investment was approved based on Harper's leadership and vision. Our due diligence focused on her track record, her team, and her growth strategy." Lucas shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. My mother's smile became rigid. Jonathan continued, "We've reassessed our position. There seems to be a discrepancy between expectations regarding future leadership. Any significant change would materially alter our agreement." My father cleared his throat, attempting to mediate. "We've always envisioned Bennett Fine Foods as a true family business, with both of our children contributing." Respectfully, Diane Thomas, another key investor, interjected, "Our investment was based on continuity of leadership. Harper has demonstrated exceptional business acumen, growing this company from near bankruptcy to a national contender. Any change represents a material alteration." Lucas leaned forward, confidence brimming despite 8 years of minimal involvement. "I can assure you my MBA and consulting experience qualify me to replace the person who saved this company, increase its valuation by 3,000%, and secured this investment." Jonathan cut him off bluntly. The room went silent. My parents' faces turned pale, eyes flicking between their son and the reality in front of them. Jonathan slid a folder toward my parents. "We have 2 options. Review them carefully." Inside, one document outlined the original investment deal with explicit language ensuring I would remain CEO for 5 years, while Lucas's role was non-executive. The second proposed a $10 million investment in a new company, founded and led by me, with no connection to the Bennett name or family ownership. "What is this?" my father asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Insurance," I said calmly. "In case you don't understand what's truly valuable here." Lucas snatched the second document, face flushing. "You're threatening to start a competing business. Your own family." "I'm protecting what I built," I corrected him. "Something you had no part in creating." My mother's expression twisted with disbelief. "Harper, you can't mean to abandon the family legacy." Before I could respond, Nina, Owen, Leah, and 15 other employees entered. "Excuse the interruption," Nina said clearly. "But if Harper leaves, we go with her, all of us." Whispers erupted across the room. My parents stared in disbelief. Their control over the company was gone. "The choice is yours," I said softly. "Recognize what I've built and who built it, or watch me walk away with everything that makes this company valuable." For nearly 10 minutes, silence reigned as my parents and Lucas reviewed the documents. My employees stood like a wall of support behind me. Finally, my father sighed, pushing forward the first document. "We'll sign this one," he said, defeat heavy in his voice. "Harper stays as CEO." My mother nodded, lips pressed thin. Lucas was shell-shocked. Jonathan smiled approvingly. The deal was done. 6 months later, Bennett Fine Foods was thriving. Expansion was ahead of schedule, new product lines were performing above expectations, and I had finally secured my rightful place. My parents and Lucas remained in the periphery, while my real family, my team, stood firmly behind me. The first week after securing the investment was a whirlwind. I spent hours in the office with my team, Nina, Owen, and Leah, mapping out the national expansion plan. Every detail mattered: shipping logistics, marketing campaigns, and production schedules. I had learned long ago that success wasn't about titles or recognition, it was about execution, consistency, and the people you trusted. Lucas Bennett, meanwhile, lingered in the office like a shadow. My parents had reluctantly accepted the reality, but they still tried to include him in every conversation. He asked questions he already knew the answers to, made suggestions that weren't helpful, and generally operated in a world where authority was assumed, not earned. I kept my interactions polite but distant. His presence was a reminder of the uphill battle I had been fighting for 8 years, the constant expectation that he would somehow inherit everything I had built. I called a strategy meeting with my core team. The priority is the new distribution center in Chicago, I said, laying out a detailed map of our shipping routes. If we get this right, we can cut delivery times in half, reduce shipping costs by 25%, and scale to 25 states within 6 months. Owen leaned forward, tapping his pen on the table. We'll need to renegotiate contracts with Midwest suppliers. Some of them might be hesitant to adjust terms after working with us for years under the old system. I've already drafted letters, I replied. We're presenting it as an operational efficiency upgrade, not a renegotiation. It's about growth, not confrontation. Nina raised a concern. Harper, what about branding? Some of our older customers still associate us with the Bennett name. Are we confident the new national rollout won't confuse them? I nodded. Our research shows that the loyalty is to the product, the quality, and the story we've told, not the family name. Our new packaging and marketing strategy will highlight the artisanal, handcrafted nature of our offerings and reinforce the connection to our small farm suppliers. The Bennett name is secondary, our work speaks for itself. Leah added, and the subscription box service. That's still our growth engine. Any missteps there could jeopardize everything. Exactly, I said. Which is why every department is synchronized. Operations, marketing, and production are aligned. Our goal is seamless growth, not chaos. Everyone knows their role. Later that afternoon, I walked the factory floor, checking on production schedules and observing quality control. Even after securing the $8 million investment, I couldn't let complacency creep in. This company had survived near bankruptcy once. I wasn't about to let ego or miscommunication threaten it now. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Can we talk? I want to understand the company better. I stared at the screen for a moment before replying, we'll meet tomorrow morning. My office. 9 a.m. sharp. The next day, he showed up punctually, as expected, and took a seat across from me. His posture screamed confidence, but his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Harper, I want to be helpful. I want to contribute. I know I've been absent, but you've been absent for 8 years, I said firmly, leaning back in my chair. This isn't about wanting to contribute. This is about earning it. There are no shortcuts here. He swallowed, blinking. I just don't want to let the family down. The family is no longer running this company, I said sharply. This company is running because of me, and because of the team that's standing behind me. You want to help. Prove yourself, not to them, but to us. Actions matter more than your title. He nodded slowly, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of understanding. Maybe he was beginning to realize that leadership couldn't be inherited, it had to be earned. That evening, I walked home past the city lights glinting off the high-rise windows. I thought about the past 8 years, the long nights, the financial risk, the personal sacrifices. None of it had been easy. But in that moment, I felt a rare sense of clarity. I wasn't defined by my family's approval or their outdated assumptions. I was defined by my vision, my persistence, and the people who chose to stand beside me. As I prepared for the next day, I reviewed the Chicago expansion plan once more, knowing that this was just the beginning. My parents and Lucas could watch from the sidelines, but the company, my vision, and my team were moving forward, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Monday morning arrived like a storm on the horizon. I was in the office before sunrise, reviewing projections for the Chicago distribution center one last time. Every number had to be precise. Every contingency accounted for. The stakes were higher than ever. This expansion wasn't just about revenue, it was about proving to my family, the investors, and myself that Sinclair Fine Foods could thrive on my leadership alone. By 7:45 a.m., Nina, Owen, and Leah were at their desks, quietly preparing for the day ahead. Their presence was a comfort. They'd seen the battles I'd faced, the sleepless nights, the near-impossible decisions. They believed in me, and that belief was more powerful than any family title. At 8:30 a.m., my parents arrived, both impeccably dressed, exuding the air of authority that had always been so natural to them. My father greeted me with a nod, attempting a casual smile, while my mother's eyes glimmered with expectation and, perhaps, a hint of unease. Lucas arrived shortly after, perfectly on time, radiating confidence that felt almost performative. He hadn't earned it, not yet. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice calm but firm as I called the morning meeting to order. "Today, we're reviewing the Chicago expansion plan, discussing logistics, and finalizing the rollout schedule. Everyone has their notes?" "Yes," Owen said, passing me the updated supplier contracts. "All contingencies included. Midwest shipments are aligned with our delivery projections." "Great," I replied. "We're starting with volume projections." "Nina." She presented the data with precision. Monthly subscription orders were projected to increase by 35% within the first quarter, retail distribution would cover 25 states by mid-year, and customer retention rates were stronger than ever. I felt a sense of satisfaction seeing the numbers laid out. It was the tangible proof of years of hard work. Then came Lucas's moment. He cleared his throat. "I have some ideas on optimizing the expansion. Maybe we could renegotiate the logistics contracts, and I think some of the marketing strategies could be improved." I kept my expression neutral. "Thank you for your input, Lucas. For now, let's stick to the plan. The projections are based on validated metrics and months of operational testing. Any changes will be reviewed once the rollout begins." He blinked, slightly taken aback, but said nothing further. I knew that was only the beginning of his learning curve. He had the desire, but not the experience. At 9 a.m., Kingston and his investment team arrived. I had briefed them the night before, but there was an undeniable tension in the air as they walked into the conference room. They had come to see if the new structure I had proposed, the company under my leadership alone, without the family name overshadowing it, was going to hold. Kingston greeted everyone politely, then fixed his gaze on me. "Harper, we've reviewed your proposal and the numbers. You've been thorough, and your plan is impressive. But we want to hear from the company team and your family. Are you ready?" I nodded. "Absolutely. Let's begin." I led them through a detailed presentation: sales trends, subscription growth, distribution efficiencies, and future projections. Every slide, every chart, every analysis reinforced the point I had been making for years. The company's success was the result of my leadership and the team supporting me, not inherited status or family prestige. As the meeting progressed, my parents exchanged tense glances. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line, my father's hands clenched slightly. Lucas tried to interject a few times, but Kingston politely reminded him to let me continue. Finally, I presented the final proposal, an official organizational chart naming me as CEO, with defined roles for my parents as brand ambassadors and Lucas in a limited executive capacity. The investors leaned back, digesting the plan. Kingston spoke first. "This structure is unconventional, but the data supports it. Harper, you've not only built this company from near bankruptcy to a national contender, but you've also secured a major investment that validates your strategy. Our recommendation is to proceed with your leadership plan as proposed. A wave of relief washed over me. 8 years of struggle, sacrifice, and perseverance had culminated in this moment. My parents remained silent, realizing that their influence over the company had finally been superseded by proven results. As the meeting ended and the team began implementing the expansion plan, I allowed myself a brief moment of satisfaction. For the first time, the focus was entirely on the company's future, not family politics, not titles, not birth order. I had earned this. And from now on, nothing would threaten it. By Tuesday morning, the atmosphere at Sinclair Fine Foods headquarters had shifted. There was an energy in the air, purposeful, focused, and electric. The employees, who had always operated in the shadow of family politics, now knew the hierarchy was clear. I was in charge. No ambiguity. No unearned assumptions. I arrived at 7:15 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to address the new tasks ahead. Daphne, Owen, and Leah were already at their stations, reviewing logistics schedules and marketing timelines. I smiled at them. Their unwavering support had been my anchor through years of uncertainty. "Morning, Harper," Daphne said, her tone warm but businesslike. "We've coordinated with the Midwest warehouses. Everything is ready for tomorrow's initial shipment." "Excellent," I replied, scanning the reports. The numbers were precise. Delivery routes optimized. Inventory synced. It was flawless, or as close to flawless as I could get with a real-world operation. At 8 a.m., my parents walked in together, my mother's expression carefully neutral, my father's slightly anxious. Lucas followed, suit immaculate, confidence forced. The tension between us was palpable. I didn't need to say anything, the room itself spoke volumes. "Good morning," my father said, attempting cheerfulness. "I thought we might discuss some additional branding ideas for the expansion." I nodded politely. "Of course, but let's review the logistics and marketing schedule first. Time is our most valuable resource right now." Lucas cleared his throat. "I think I could help by streamlining supplier communications." "Maybe I could, Lucas," I said, my voice steady but firm. "We've already secured our supplier agreements. Any changes to that network would require extensive analysis. For now, your focus will be on learning the operations and reporting on metrics. You'll have time to contribute more as you gain experience." His face flushed slightly, but he nodded. I could see the wheels turning. He didn't fully understand yet that experience could never be shortcut by titles. At 9 a.m., Kingston and the investment team arrived. This was the first official inspection under the new leadership structure. I had prepared every detail, updated projections, risk assessments, and contingency plans. The goal was clear: show them that Sinclair Fine Foods could grow and thrive, entirely under my management. "Harper," Kingston began, "we wanted to review the implementation plan and see your team in action. From what we've seen so far, the numbers are impressive." "Thank you," I replied, leading them through the conference room to the operations floor. Employees moved with confidence, checking inventory, reviewing orders, and coordinating shipments. Kingston's team nodded, impressed by the efficiency and professionalism. We gathered back in the conference room, and I presented the projections for the first quarter of national expansion, subscription growth, retail partnerships, and logistics timelines. The data was clear. Every number confirmed that the company's success wasn't tied to family legacy, it was tied to leadership, strategy, and execution. Kingston leaned back, exchanging glances with his colleagues. "This is what we wanted to see," he said. "Your team is cohesive. The processes are sound. And your metrics demonstrate not only growth but sustainability. A surge of pride swept through me, tempered by the memory of the battles it had taken to reach this point. 8 years of relentless work, of sleeping in the stockroom, negotiating contracts, building a subscription model from scratch, had all led to this validation. After the investors left, I called a team meeting. "I want to thank everyone for your dedication," I said. "Your commitment has made all this possible. Today, we proved that results speak louder than titles or family names. We've earned this success together." There was a moment of quiet acknowledgement, then applause. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but it carried weight. My team understood what this victory meant. They had helped build something lasting and meaningful. Later, in my office, I allowed myself a rare moment to reflect. For years, I had sought approval from my parents, recognition that never truly came. Now, it didn't matter. I had created a legacy of my own, one built on skill, perseverance, and loyalty, not birthright or tradition. And for the first time in nearly a decade, I could see a future where my contributions would be acknowledged, where the company I had saved and grown would continue to thrive under my vision, and no one else's entitlement. Monday had been about survival. Tuesday was about proving that survival was just the beginning. The following week felt surreal. I arrived at Sinclair Fine Foods headquarters knowing the hierarchy was clear, the team aligned, and the investors confident. Yet, there was still one challenge left, fully solidifying my position and setting the tone for the next chapter. At 8 a.m. The office buzzed with control energy. Daphne, Owen, and Leah were already coordinating the shipment rollout for our first national distribution wave. Employees moved efficiently, carrying out tasks with precision and care. I took a deep breath. This was my legacy in motion, and everyone who mattered understood it. Lucas appeared at the doorway, hesitating. "Harper, can we talk?" I gestured for him to come in. "Of course. What's on your mind?" He shifted uncomfortably, trying to reconcile the confidence he projected with the reality of his minimal experience. I don't want to get in the way. I want to help." "I know," I said softly. "And there's a place for you here, but it's earned, not inherited. Focus on learning, understanding operations, and supporting the team. The rest will come in time." He nodded, a mix of relief and frustration on his face. For once, I felt no resentment toward him, just clarity. He had to earn his place, just as I had. By 9 a.m. Kingston and his investment team arrived for a follow-up meeting. Today was about validation and formalizing plans. I presented updated projections, refined marketing strategies, and detailed expansion timelines. Every slide, every chart, every metric reinforced what I already knew. The company's success was a result of leadership, not lineage. Kingston studied the documents carefully, then looked up. "Harper, this is exceptional. Your vision, the execution, the team, it's all clear. We are confident moving forward with full support for your leadership." Relief washed over me. This was the moment all my preparation and persistence had led to. 8 years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and relentless effort had culminated in recognition, not from my parents, but from the people whose decisions mattered for the business's future. After the investors left, I gathered my core team in the conference room. "Today is more than just an investment meeting," I said, scanning their faces. "It's proof that hard work, dedication, and integrity pay off. You all stood by me when family politics threatened everything, and now we have the opportunity to shape the future of Sinclair Fine Foods, together." Daphne smiled, eyes bright. We've always believed in you, Harper. Not because of the name, but because of you. Owen nodded. This company is stronger because you've been at the helm. We are proud to be part of it. I felt an unexpected warmth, a quiet pride. My family might never fully recognize my worth, but my team did. They were my true family, the people who had shared in my vision and helped me turn it into reality. That evening, I drove home alone, the city lights blurring past the car windows. For years, I had sought validation from the wrong people. Now, I understood that legacy isn't inherited, it's built. And I had built mine from the ground up. The next morning, my parents stopped by the office, clearly reluctant but compelled by curiosity. My father approached cautiously. Harper, we just wanted to see the operations under your leadership. I gestured toward the bustling floor. Everything you see here has been built over the last 8 years. The systems, the team, the brand, you're welcome to observe, but remember, this is no longer about tradition. It's about results. My mother said nothing, her lips pressed together in quiet acknowledgement. Lucas followed, silent, processing the reality of what had finally been established. Leadership is earned, not granted by birthright. As the week progressed, our national expansion launched smoothly. Sales exceeded projections. Customer feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The company's reputation as a high-quality, family-driven brand remained intact, but now it had a new story, the story of resilience, vision, and determination. Sitting in my office late one Friday evening, I looked around at the headquarters. The work was far from over, but for the first time, I felt in control. 8 years of struggle had forged a company, and a leader, capable of enduring anything. My parents would always be part of my history, William part of the family, but my future, and the future of Sinclair Fine Foods, was firmly in my hands. The betrayal, the doubt, and the favoritism no longer defined me. I had claimed my place, not through birthright, but through vision, grit, and unwavering determination. And in that moment, I realized something fundamental: legacy isn't given. It's created. And mine was only just beginning.